Can someone please explain why? Are we giving them all of this money? This comment takes you back to the first video about the Irish Finance Minister Paschal Donohoe, but even if you are not Irish, this is worth watching. I'm going to talk about the World Bank. Last April, Ireland announced, or Paschal Donohoe announced for us, that we would give 141 million euros to something called the International Development Association, which sits inside the World Bank. Very quickly after this announcement, Paschal gets a new job at the World Bank and resigns from government. This decision is framed by the Irish government as Ireland is helping poor people. Aren't we so noble? Aren't we so generous? Don't you want to help poor people? What's your problem? Except that this money does not go to help poor people. Let's talk about where it actually goes. Ireland puts 141 million into this IDA pot. So do lots of other rich countries. The World Bank then takes that money and uses it like a down payment. It becomes the safety cushion. The IDA then uses that safety cushion to then go to Wall Street banks, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, and borrow far more than what the governments put in. And this is where the bonds come in. A bond is just an IOU. If you purchase bonds, you're buying a promise on paper. So rather than the IDA or the World Bank slowly paying back their loan like you would have to, they sell it as bonds. A bond is just a promise. It is not currency. It is not tangible. It shouldn't really exist, in my opinion. Usury. It's defined in the Catholic canon, a mortal sin. So the big banks, Goldman Sachs, BNP Paribas, Morgan Stanley, they then help the IDA sell those bonds. Who's buying all of this debt? Pension funds. You are. Your future ability to retire relies on this complex web of resold debt. I know this is incredibly complicated, and I know that when you simplify it down, people then reject it because it's so ridiculous. But to summarize, we donated millions of euros to an organization that then uses that money as chips down to take out huge loans that are guaranteed as bonds that are sold to pension funds. This is just a fucking bubble. Like, no poor person is being helped in any of this. In fact, the consequences are that your future is affected. So now the IDA has had donations from countries and then got big fat loans. And then instead of having to pay back those loans, it sells little bits of that to other investors. So investors come along then and give more money to the IDA. Bonds have to mature. Once they hit maturity, or enough time has passed, then these investors who bought the IOUs get their money back. These are seen as the safest possible investments. Why? Because of the original guarantee by the developed nations. So the IDA is taking in the initial donor cash, the loans, the investor cash, and then the repayments from the loans it gave these poorer nations previously. So for the current IDA 21 cycle, the value of this pot now sits at over $100 billion. Imagine what we could do globally with $100 billion. If there is a pot of money with that much in it, why do we have poverty at all? According to the World Bank itself, it would cost 70 billion to completely eradicate world poverty. So we would have 30 billion left. The IDA doesn't just give you the money. It gives you a loan, a concessional loan. This structure of moving money around is deeply flawed and problematic. The first conflict of interest occurs with the creation of bonds, because now the IDA is subservient to the bondholders. Every year it must pay interest to its investors. And the maddening thing is when the bond matures, so it gets to a certain age, those investors get their original principal back. So what they paid for the IOUs, they get a refund on. Having spent years collecting interest out of this organization that's supposed to be helping people, the money that the IDA uses to pay its investors comes from these deprived countries paying back loans. Investor returns are funded by the poor countries' tax budgets. The money that Ireland has just given does three crucial things. It adds to the safety cushion that allows the IDA to take out these loans. And that enables the issuing of more bonds, which stimulates Wall Street. Every time bonds like this get created, the rich get richer and the poor suffer. So if a poor country who has to borrow ever struggles with their repayments, it is the Irish donation that acts as a buffer to make sure that investors still get paid. We could have just donated that money to a poor country as a gift. Would have been cheaper. Sending it to the World Bank, who sends it to Goldman Sachs, who creates... It's bullshit. It's bullshit. This is a system that routes both public taxpayer money from developed nations and taxpayer money used in repayments from underdeveloped nations to enrich people who buy and sell bonds. That's it. Except it's not it, because it's so much worse. When a poor country usually is forced into a situation where it has to accept a World Bank loan, it also has to accept the conditions of that loan. There is no good reason why we have given this money to this specific organisation. No, we didn't have to. We were not forced to. It was a voluntary contribution. Pascal gave more than we were even comfortable with. He didn't have to give them anything at all. And he didn't ask us whether we wanted to. And nobody explained what the fuck the World Bank is before they wrote the check. I will do a part 2 video where I talk about the conditions that get attached to these loans and the asymmetry of power that exists inside of this organisation. I will also suggest alternatives as to how Irish people and Ireland as a nation could actually be helping poor people, not shareholders. Calling this charity is wrong. Like, basic rule that maybe we could apply. If the money touches Goldman Sachs, that's not fucking charity.